Hi, my name is Sammy Vizzi, and today I'll be talking about attachment styles and interpersonal communication. According to Mikuluncer and Shaver in 2019, they found that about 40 to 50% of adults show insecure attachment patterns in relationships. This topic immediately caught my attention because it helped explain so many of my own communication habits. Today I'm discussing how attachment styles influence communication. My thesis is understanding my attachment style helps me communicate more securely and builds healthy relationships. In my presentation today, I will touch on what attachment styles exactly are, how I communicated before I found out which attachment style I had, and how I communicate now. So what exactly are attachment styles? They're patterns formed from early experiences with caregivers that influence how we communicate in adult relationships. According to Mikuluncer and Shaver, attachment styles strongly influence how we regulate emotions, deal with conflict, and how comfortable we are with closeness. I feel like this also depends on the relationship you had with your parents at a young age, how many parents you grew up with that will later on develop into what we have as our communication style now. So there are four or attachment styles. It is secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful avoidant. Insecure attachment, whether anxious or avoidant, often leads to miscommunication and anxiety during conflict or withdrawing when things get overwhelming. So those are more of the negative side. My research insight, again, according to Mikuluncer and Shaver, attachment styles affect emotional regulation, influence conflict behavior, shape our comfort with closeness, depending on our relationships with other people as well. They can also lead to anxiety, withdrawal, or miscommunication is definitely a big one in relationships, especially romantic relationships. It shows that insecure attachment is linked to poor emotion regulation, again, which will always circle back to our childhood and growing up with with parents that we had. It explains that these emotion regulation differences affect interpersonal processes, including comfort with closeness, reactions during conflict, and emotional stability. So I found out that I have an anxious attachment style, which I was kind of aware of growing up because I naturally just am a very anxious person. I definitely did not start exploring attachment styles until I became older, and especially when I started dating, especially, growing up and you're kind of figuring out the type of people you want to be with and the type of people you don't want to be with. And I started to notice how I was reacting during certain conflict with my past relationships. So a couple of examples are I communicated with more anxious tendencies. This is mostly overthinking. I overanalyzed very small things such as tone, pauses, delayed replies. I assumed conflict or rejection even when nothing was wrong. Reacting quickly, always worrying. I also often misinterpreted tone or delayed replies, like I just said. Neutral messages felt emotionally loaded to me. I avoided difficult conversations. I feel I did not know how to go about certain difficult conversations because I did not want to create a fight out of it, but I also didn't know how to start the conversation in general. So I didn't address conflict or misunderstanding. I often just kind of let issues be and kind of eat away at me instead of just resolving them early. And that's also just having a normal adult conversation and just having communication with someone else. This slowed decision making by not clarifying concerns. I also had difficulty expressing needs clearly. This struggled to clearly state what I wanted or needed from the group or other person. Used vague language because I did not, again, want to start a fight or even have to think about the issue that has occurred. And this led to my needs being overlooked or unmet. So in the long run, it almost made the other person not feel as wanted either. So a lot of personal examples I find was from my past relationship, which ended up being a very healthy relationship. I feel that also with different attachment styles that date other attachment styles, depending on how healthy the relationship is or how toxic the other person is, um, these attachment style reactions will affect each person differently. So in my case, since I was in a healthy relationship, these attachment styles that I had and the actions that I kept making grew my past relationship. my significant other to become anxious and worried about me when some of my other friends who were in not so healthy relationships grew the other person to become angry with them. So when someone took too long to text back, I assumed something was wrong. I avoided conflict, felt very, very, very anxious. I was constantly overthinking and just letting it eat away at me. I honestly felt like exactly this picture, like my mind was constantly flowing and I was just very stressed. And this held a lot of frustration until it all came out at once, and that's just too much on the other person. So after learning that I had an avoidant or an anxious avoidant attachment, I gained self-awareness of which triggers would cause me to act in this way. And also just learning with which attachment style helped me feel at ease and not that there was something wrong with me in a way. I learned to respond instead of react. It's definitely a way to rewire your brain from past actions. I started using I feel and I need statements, which is often a great way to start to go into those kind of scarier conversations to have with others and giving people the benefit of the doubt because in the long run you can't control other people. So another personal example of my improved communication is I use perception checks. I actually did talk about this with my therapist as well. Um, to, say, for example, I might be misreading this, but I wanted to check in just because, it allows the other person to feel more comfortable talking about an issue that they're possibly having, in case they, feel like they can't talk about it prior because they are maybe nervous or have the same attachment style. This leads to clearer and calmer conversations. It reduces anxiety, allows me to get more clarity, and shows that I'm taking responsibilities for my own interpretations and overall, so making sure that communication is always, always happening. So in conclusion, understanding my attachment style has helped me recognize my own patterns and communicate more effectively. It has improved the way I respond to others, express my needs, and handle conflict in a healthier, more secure way. Overall, the idea is understanding attachment isn't about blaming the past, it's about learning to communicate better in the present. So, like I said before, learning my attachment style helped me realize the things I needed to fix and the things that triggered me. And not only to have better communication with my significant others, but also with family members, friends, you know, bosses, managers, anything like that. And it's just so important that we are always communicating. Thank you. And those are my sources as well. Thank you so much for such a great class, and I hope you have a great winter break.